All right, best available for day two. We just did our winners and losers for the day for the first round. So make sure you guys go check that out if you haven't already. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media. Kean McDermott just was live for 4 hours for the first round of the NFL draft. Obviously, we have day two tomorrow, and as per usual, some first round talents fall into the second round. So we'll be going over 6 guys I think are going to be steals tomorrow and the best available players. And first is Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky. What happened? I thought he was going first overall, media. What happened? Because you're pissing me off with that goddamn smoke screen that made me record a whole video on it, and it just you didn't even get picked in the first round. Nevertheless, first overall, but great player. That may sound like some aggression toward Will Levis, but great player, a guy who is just going to need to find the right team now. I don't think will be winning. I don't think is going to be drafted as a starter for now. I think he might be a guy who's going to have to compete for that starting job, and I think a guy we might see Hendon Hooker get taken over. But Will Levis is a great quarterback, a guy who I think is super good at reading defenses, prototypical size, great arm, and I think the question mark might have just been for them, where is he? What's the upside with Will Levis? And I think teams just weren't willing to pull the trigger, but I think a team might be willing to pull the trigger on him to compete with another maybe veteran guy. So I think that's why he fell. But again, I can't even really pinpoint why he fell, because a guy who was projected to go first overall, had good odds to go first overall and then didn't. So I don't know the last time we've seen that. Then at number 2, Joey Porter, Penn State, a guy who I really like. I don't love. I think there was a gap between my top 3 were Banks, Gonzalez, and Witherspoon, and Banks and Gonzalez fell. So again, corner, I guess, just wasn't highly wanted this year. But Porter, I think, lacked the athleticism those other 2 guys did. But he now goes to he doesn't go to Penn State. He did go to Penn State, but he now is there. I think the Steelers will be looking to trade up and take him. I think a guy who should have went to the Steelers in the first round. They obviously traded up to take Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. But Joey Porter, ideal size. I mean, even more ideal size than Christian Gonzalez. Physical, good man coverage, a guy who is a boundary corner that I think is going to be valuable. And I think, again, just some guys just don't get drafted, and they should. And I think Joey Porter is one of those guys. I think it could have happened to Deontay Banks. And I think the fact that Emmanuel Forbes was taken just shows teams maybe performing the ball skills this year, which I don't think Porter is as good at as a guy like Forbes, as a guy like Witherspoon, as a guy like Gonzalez. So that's why. Then we have the behemoth, DeJuan Jones, tackle out of Ohio State, 6'8", 370. A guy who we predicted not to go in the first round, but I thought might sneak into the end, maybe to the Chiefs, maybe to the Saints. But a guy who I think, speaking of the Steelers, or excuse me, they already drafted Broderick Jones. DeJuan Jones, I think, might slide even more. He might be a third-round guy, but I really like him. I think sneaky athletic for a guy of his size. Is he athletic, like normally athletic? No. But for a guy who's literally the size of a tree, he's pretty athletic and can move with minimal pain. Like, he can kind of move. So that's, I think, a guy who may see some light. Maybe he goes early second, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is a guy who just falls into the third, just because that fluidity and lateral mobility is just non-existent. Then at 4, we saw the best tight end fall, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Dalton Kincaid, only tight end who was taken. A lot of people thought we might be able to see, 3, even 4 tight ends taking the first round. The Bills were the only team to take tight end, as they took Kincaid as they traded up with Jacksonville. But Mayer, super ideal size, really good hands, safe tight end, a guy who I think will go early second. So, and again, I mean, the 32nd overall pick, because I guess the Dolphins forfeit, like, there's still, I guess, one more first round pick if you really think about it. So maybe Michael Mayer slips into the first pick of that second round. But again, really, really good player. I think a guy who should have been a first round pick, but Kincaid, I think, was more of a thinner, fluid guy who was better vertically. So again, Michael Mayer, super talented, will be taken early. Jalen Hyatt, a guy who I thought would have went to Kansas City at 31. He ends up falling. One of my number 5 receiver. Obviously, we saw Zay Flowers taken, Jackson Smith-Njigba taken, Quentin Johnson taken, Jordan Addison, all guys who I thought we might see a fall of receivers in this draft. But Hyatt, burner downfield, his game speed is faster than his 40 time. A guy who will be drafted to be a burner, really, really good. But again, I think what might have been concerning is his lack of tape against press coverage. A guy who gets deleted against plays against press coverage. So that might be the issue there for Jalen Hyatt. And then at 6, Brian Branch, who I kept predicting when picks were going off, it's going to be Brian Branch, it's going to be Brian Branch. He ended up not going in the first round. He is super valuable. This guy is super versatile, can play in the slot, can play safety. I think this guy could be an outside corner if you needed him for a couple snaps. This dude is valuable and he will be taken early. Again, another guy I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken in the first 5 picks of the second round. Like, he won't slide. I think DeJuan Jones could slide. I think Hyatt might slide, but I don't think Brian Branch will slide. Like, this guy will be called early tomorrow. So that's where I'm at with Brian Branch and these best available players. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think are the best available? Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on social media. Kean McDermott. See you next time. That's it. See you next time.